Hi everybody, Andrew Cuneo here. It's been a while since I've touched on Standard. The last time I tried playing Standard, I tried to play an Esper control deck, and it went really badly. You can go back and check that video. I didn't win any matches. Since then, I've been playing a little bit more Standard, and I think that if you want to just play the best deck, you should just play the Grixis deck that uses Fable the Mirror Breaker, Invoke Despair, and, you know, a little bit of counters with Make Disappear, and just the standard Grixis deck. And I've been playing that some. I think that deck's good, obviously. I wanted to continue to try to build a decent Esper deck, although it does seem a little bit hopeless. I think if you want to know how do you succeed in Standard, I think you have to either have Fable of the Mirror Breaker in your deck or be one of the aggressive decks, like Mono Red or the Blue White Soldiers deck. I'm not sure that there's really a lane for anybody who wants to know anything different, but I'm going to continue to try just to see if maybe there is. So this is different from my previous Esper control deck in that I just put the cards that I thought would be good against Grixis in my deck. So I've just got 4 Siphon Insights in my main deck. And then I kind of realized that the Eternal Wanderer is not a very good card if you're playing a deck that doesn't tend to have creatures in play, because you just can't play it as a 6-mana sweeper. You play it for 6 mana and you -4 it, and then they just have 1 creature left over and they attack and kill it. So I got rid of all of those, so that I'm just playing 3 Farewells, and I'm also playing 4 Invoke Despairs, because I think it's just so much better than just pure card drawing cards like Memory Deluge. I may have only had 3 Wandering Emperors in my deck before, gone up to 4. That's going to be an important way to deal a little bit of damage. Like, if you look at this deck, the only way you're going to win is Wandering Emperor tokens, damage from Invoke Despair, and there's 1 Ertai Resurrected. You can also steal ways to win from your opponent with Siphon Insight. But your main avenues to victory, one of them is the Wandering Emperor. Going beyond that, I don't have Make Disappear in my deck because I have so few ways to make creatures that you just can't make it do anything later on in the game a lot of the time. So I have 3 Negates. This is because I really think you want to be prepared to beat Fable of the Mirror Breaker decks. And having a turn 2 counter to Fable of the Mirror Breaker is very important for potentially winning. I also have 1 Syncopate, which it can hit creatures, but it's a card that can also hit Fable of the Mirror Breaker on turn 2. I have this Disdainful Stroke and Ertai Resurrected in my deck because if you cannot counter someone who's just trying to play Atraxa for 7 mana, they're just going to grind you out. So I wanted some counters in my main deck that can hit Atraxa, and those are the 2 I've chosen to play. I'm not playing any 3 mana counters because they cannot hit Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Ertai Resurrected is, I'm not sure if it's worth playing or not. I wanted to try it. You know, it kind of splits the difference between being a counter and a targeted creature removal spell, and also just, you know, a threat. It does a lot of different things. It doesn't do any of them at a great rate, so I don't know that it's really worth including, but I've got 1 in my deck for now. Looking at the 2 mana removal, I'm still playing 4 Sheoldred's Edicts, whereas I know that the Grixis decks pretty much exclusively go for the throats. I've been kind of happy with Sheoldred's Edicts. I think that you kill a Planeswalker often enough that it's worth having the option. And at least maybe it's different in Grixis, because sometimes in Grixis you might just be playing creatures and your opponent's playing creatures, and when it comes time to cast your removal spell, you want to make sure you can kill what you want to kill, not just let them choose. But in a control deck like this, you're just going to be trying to keep the board clear. So you're going to have fewer complicated boards where your opponent's actually getting to keep the creature they want because they have multiple creatures. Here, if your opponent has multiple creatures in play and you're playing Sheoldred's Edict, you're in bad shape already. So go for the throat might not make things any better. Looking at the lands, one thing I did do is I've changed my mana base so I can play a Field of Ruin and a Demolition Field. They're functionally the same card. So I've got 3 basics in my deck. This is both to give myself a little bit of an out to Mirex. There was a time when people were starting to play the Mirex in their deck, and it was pretty annoying for this style of deck that they would have something that could just spit out creatures and there was never anything you could do about it. So I've got a Demolition Field and the Field of Ruin, and I've got 3 basics to go with them. This also makes it so that if I play against someone who has put Field of Ruin or Demolition Field in their deck, they can't just, destroy one of my lands if I happen to have drawn. In the past, I was only playing 1 swamp. So I still have a mana base that has very, very few lands that don't tap for black to cast Invoke Despair. I've got 2 basics, Field of Ruin and Demolition Field. If you didn't want to play this Demolition Field, Field of Ruin stuff, you could just play 4 Deserted Beaches. Looking at the sideboard, I have some more Disdainful Strokes, a Pilfer, and another Syncopate. This is to really give you a lot of ways to counter Atraxas after sideboard. Against the more aggressive decks, I've got some Sheoldreds I can bring in, because I think that Sheoldred, like, if you just get to untap with it against one of the aggressive decks, you're so likely to win. I also have 4 Parasitic Grasps in my deck, or in my sideboard, rather. Because I think this is the best card that covers both mono red and the blue-white soldiers deck. Most of the soldiers in the blue-white soldiers deck are going to be humans, or at least a lot of them are going to be. So you're going to cast this for 2 mana most of the time there. Against the mono red deck, there are some humans. The backside of Kamano Faces Kakazan is going to be a human. Feldon is a human, although using Parasitic Grasp to kill Feldon, it's nice that it's mana efficient. It does give them, 3 triggers off of the Feldon, so that's not ideal. They might have Reckless Stormseeker, the 2/3 werewolf guy. Most of the decks don't have that, but for the most part, casting this for 3 mana against mono red, you're going to be happy with it. And then some Duresses, some cut downs, another Depopulate. This is just generic catch-all if you play someone who has a lot of creatures. I don't know that there's any expected deck where you're really going to want to populate, but on the ladder you can play against unexpected decks. You would certainly board this in against the white-blue soldiers deck. I think it's not really actually very good against the mono-red deck. So of the expected decks, I would say this only comes in against white-blue soldiers. That's the deck. Let's see it in action. This hand on the draw, I think I'm supposed to mulligan. One of the reasons that control decks like this don't really succeed is that they hate mulliganing so much, and they can't take advantage of the fact that mulliganing is, it's not free when you can just, mull the 6 and get to see a 7-card hand and put 1 on the bottom, but it is way less costly than it used to be. Oh, I think this is going to be a deck based around... I don't know what the name of the artifacts is, but there's this artifact that people play that reduces the cost of their spells. Minds something, Mycosynth something. They're going to play at this game, and I'm going to counter it with Disdainful Stroke, and then we'll learn the name of it. Costs 4 mana. They're going to probably play it right here, right now. Let's see it. What's the name of it? Hit me with it. Let me know the name of it. They didn't play it. We didn't learn the name of it. It was a failure. Silver Scrutiny for 3. I'll Disdainful Stroke that. I do have this to get their artifact off the board. I also have Void Rends in my deck, so it's not a disaster if it resolves. Should I go after their Monumental Facade? They do have one island in play. I wouldn't be surprised if they only have one basic in their deck. I was hoping to find a Darkslick Shores, well, or a Raffine's Tower, just, you know, I was going to play it. Comes into play tapped land. Mind Splice Apparatus, that is the name of the card that I didn't know the name of. They're oiling up their Apparatus. And they're copying something that's probably not going to be that expensive. No, big score. This is pretty powerful, what they're doing here. All right. I suspect I'm going to lose this game because they usually play the 7-mana Time Walk. I might not get another turn. I'm not even exactly sure how this deck wins, but it seems like they're getting to do what they want to be doing, so their deck should win from this situation. Maybe they win by decking themselves. Here's the Time Walk, so they got a couple turns coming. I'm really just playing this out because I want to see how their deck works. Like what's the finishing maneuver? Is it possible that whatever their planned route to victory is, they can't beat a cut down? Like if you just have cut down mana up, their deck can never win. That seems really unlikely. They've gained a bunch of life. That doesn't impress me. You need to have their spells reduced cost by 10. Oh, I see. Alright. I see how they win. White Sun's Twilight. Makes sense. So here, I think I want to play Syncopate, Disdainful Stroke, Duress, Pilfer. Certainly not Parasitic Grasp. Maybe Sheoldred. I'm going to play exactly one copy of Farewell. Maybe something like that. I don't really know how they're planning to sideboard. They probably don't even have a dedicated sideboard plan for my kind of deck. So I don't know if they're going to board in some creatures. We'll find out. Come on, lands. A big part of how I'm planning to make my land drops with this deck is just using Siphon Insight to get lands from my opponent's deck. I don't know if they have Fable the Mirror Breaker in their deck. Hopefully they... If they do, I'm going to be able to take it here. Guess I'm taking Syncopate. You're not a land. You're not a land. They're playing like they have a 2-mana counter in their hand. You're not a land. This wasn't really a very fun way for this game to play out. Still might have a shot if I draw an untapped blue land for next turn. Or I could draw Invoke Despair. That doesn't really help me. Swamp. Swamp does not help me as much as I need. It helps me a little at least. I think if I hadn't countered that, they obviously would have countered back. So I'm just going to play Wandering Emperor. I'm going to try to save my counters for a spot where I have double blue mana, so they're more likely to resolve rather than just trade with my opponent's counters.
I've learned much during my travels. Let me show you we must protect the people. Guards, to me.
I'm going to blow up the Mind Splice Apparatus in their upkeep now. So I'll just do it right here. They're still going to get the double big score because they have enough mana to pay for it. If they had had one less land, this would have been a massive blowout because they wouldn't have been able to big score in response. Or they wouldn't have been able to big score after the fact. What are they waiting for? Just play your big score. They could just play White Sun's Twilight right now and I would lose. Maybe not. I guess they would only have 6 tokens. I could maybe beat 6 tokens. I'm very dead. This is obviously going to get countered, and then they're going to time walk and kill me. I think that's probably a good matchup actually for my deck, but you're not going to win many games when you don't make your land drops. 4 lands, nice. Alright, this is probably the Grixis deck, which this is a very important matchup in Standard. And I think I have a pretty good hand for this matchup. Got a way to stop a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Got some removal spells. Got a Wandering Emperor. I think I'm not going to play the Wandering Emperor this turn. The fact that they kept their hand and they haven't done anything yet makes me feel like they probably have Make Disappear in their hand. Also, the fact that they've played their curve out in this way where they've had 2 mana untapped for the whole game. They obviously have Make Disappear. So I'll wait until next turn to play the Wandering Emperor. I did get to resolve the Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Which is annoying. I'm willing to let them casualty away the Blood Tithe Harvester if they want to keep this Wandering Emperor off the board. If they're Make Disappear. And then I'll just untap and play Invoke Despair. If they let this resolve... Oh, okay. They have a Negate. I was going to say, if they let it resolve, I'm going to still play the Sheoldred's Edict into their potential counter. Now that they could have Spell Pierce, but probably not the way this game is played out. They don't seem to be consistently... They haven't played any lines that made it seem like they had Spell Pierce. I should have left this Caves of Koilos untapped. Tap my planes. Never trust the auto tapper. It didn't matter. I feel like I should be pretty far ahead, but I'm not actually. There's the Make Disappear that I said I thought they had. And they kept a card that's better for them than Fable of the Mirror Breaker. It might just be another Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Seems like it. After the last match where I couldn't draw a land to save my life, this has been enjoyable. Stuff like this is why Fable and Mirror Breaker is so good. And if you have this in your deck and you get to you know, resolve the second mode of it, you never get hands like this. It's why this card is just so obscenely good. I guess I can still technically come back. If I draw Farewell off the top of my deck. I think I'm going to have to Void Rend to this Corpse Appraiser. Or I suppose if I drew a Siphon Insight, you know, if I drew Siphon Insight and got an Invoke Despair from their deck, that'd be pretty nice. Certainly I'm not going to have my spells countered by Make Disappear this game. Wandering Mind. Okay. Curious to see if we have any information about what basic lands they may have in their deck. Let's find out. Tell me about your basic lands, opponent. They have a swamp in their deck. I have a swamp too. Spell Pierce, that's not going to do anything. At this point, even if I drew Farewell, I would just die to Invoke Despair. Takenuma. I guess I don't die if I do this, so I'll do it, but I'm sure I'm still going to lose. Oh, Siphon Insight. Nice. The Spell Pierce actually kind of does something here. If we somehow get to their end of turn, I wouldn't be able to play the Siphon Insight because of the Spell Pierce. I'm pretty sure what's going to happen is this is going to resolve. I'm going to get rid of the Reflection of Kiki Jiki, then they're going to untap and they're going to play Invoke Despair and I'm going to die. Oh, this kills me as well. Because if I pay the 4, then the Spell Pierce actually kills me. It did something. It's rough going out to the Spell Pierce when you've drawn that many lands. Alright, in this matchup, I do not like Depopulate at all. I do like Duress. Disdainful Stroke is okay, but I think Syncopate's better. And I think I only want 2 Farewells. This thing also stinks. I'm just going to play Pilfer instead. I like keeping hands like this in control decks. I'm vulnerable to turn 3 Fable of the Mirror Breaker, but a lot of the times if I just pass with my mana untapped, my opponent isn't going to want to just play their Fable of the Mirror Breaker into my untapped mana. It's not that I think that this is a good hand, it's that I think it's better than mulliganing. Well, I plan to have them not play the Fable of the Mirror Breaker failed. It was a failed plan. I guess I need to Void Rend the Goblin Shaman if I'm planning on trying to get them with Field of Ruin. Did they not discard anything? Oh no, they pitched 2 creatures. Never mind, that's how the Corpse Appraiser has targets. Hope they don't have an actual island in their deck. We know they have a swamp, and we know it's not in their hand because they didn't play a land last turn. I think I may have just blown it. I think maybe I should have waited until the end of their turn and just seen if they played a blue land, and if they played a blue land, Demolition Field it. What's this guy doing in their deck? All right. I like it. I like that they're greedy. Am I going to win a game? Am I going to be that lucky? There's their blue land. I see why they played Fable of the Mirror Breaker. On turn 3. They had quite a lot of them in their hand. I'm just going to die to Sheoldred now. Nice. I could hit Duress with Siphon Insight, but I think I'd rather just wait and get to make a decision based on what they do. I'm doing Siphon Insight in response here just to make sure that they can't get like Make Disappear and counter it. The Siphon Insight. Whoa, they whiffed. They got whiff. Wouldn't be surprised if this gets countered. Ow. I would die to Painlands if I tried to cast Memory Deluge. I have 2 caves and an underground river. So land farewell or removal spell, removal spell. I died to them abrading their own guy. Actually, I just die because I don't even gain enough life. It would only get up to 3 and hit me for 3. Wow, I didn't think I was going to win. Or I didn't think I was going to lose after that farewell. Grixis is too strong. Alright, different matchup. Still probably going to lose. But I'll lose in a different way this time. I won't lose to Fable of the Mirror Breaker. I might lose to being color screwed. No. They don't have a second land, so maybe I won't lose. Holy cow. How fast are these swift spears? Killing a swift spear the hard way. Oh, I didn't even... I got a 2-2 instead of a 1-2. Progress, I guess. That's... Squee is a pretty good card against my deck. I do have that Wandering Emperor as a bit of an answer to it. And Farewell, but it's still just a pretty good card. Am I dead? Play with Fire Lightning Strike, is that enough? Yeah, it is. It's more than enough. Monastery's Swift Spear is a human monk, human being the important part of that. So we're going to have a lot of Parasitic Grasps in our deck. I'm gonna play like one Syncopate and one Duress. I took out all my Siphon Insights, but I also lowered my curve, so 27 lands should be enough. The Demolition Field is definitely not an all-star in this matchup. They probably have some Mishra's Foundries, so maybe I could take it, get a Mishra's Foundry, but the problem is that I can't really use this to go and find my second blue mana because they're just going to play basic mountains for most of the game, I would imagine. Well, never mind. Guess I'm going to get a plains now. This thing, not a human. How many cards is it? 4 cards. So it's probably not coming back next turn. They might just have another one in their hand, though. They have a Raiju. Alright, Sheoldred. Does Sheoldred give me a fighting chance? Maybe. A little bit concerned that they've got 4 cards in their hand, so they might just have a card that can kill Sheoldred. Not dead yet. Wow. Didn't think I was winning that one. On the draw, I'm going to play more Duresses and fewer Negates. Maybe I should play more Depopulates, too. How many actual white mana sources do I have in my deck? I feel like I might not have enough. I've got 13 plus Demolition Field, Field of Ruin. Yeah. Mana's a little bit rough. It's probably not worth doing this Demolition Field, Field of Ruin thing. If they were all deserted beaches, it would be a lot more reasonable. If they play a Monastery Swift Spear, I'll wish that I had played Caves of Koilos. But if I don't play this Shipwreck Marsh this turn, I'm gonna have to take damage from Caves of Koilos potentially twice. Boo. Dead again. Where's all my Parasitic Grasps at? I might be able to win if my top card is Wandering Emperor. My opponent made a good play putting the counter there. They played around me having cut down to deal an extra point of damage. I'm dead. The struggle is real with Esper control. Let's try one more match. I got a game win that time. I'm building momentum. Is this going to be the Soldiers deck? It's a Thalia theme deck. Thalia is a soldier. It's probably just the Soldiers deck. Farewell is looking a little bit pricey at 7. I'm going to use the Ertai to kill that. This way, next turn, I'll be able to cut down Thalia and Void Rend something else. Though if I do that, they get a 1/1. I'm just going to live with them getting the 1/1 though. Guess there was no need to do that right away. I don't know that it really hurts that I did it right away though. Untapped land. Tapped land, not the same thing. I'm going to fire off this Void Rend on one of the Valiant Veterans when they attack me. I think it'll get them to commit more to the board. Also prevents 4 damage. It'd be nice to instead have a removal spell that could hit Mishra's Foundry. Which I think it would only be cut down in this spot for me. Or if they have resolute reinforcements. Maybe they can animate Mishra's Foundry in response to make me feel like I've got a shot. No. I was wrong about it all. I refuse to let you have Thalia in play. I'll spend 7 mana to get rid of it. Negate is really not looking like an all-star in this matchup. They yet again passed on the opportunity to animate their Mishra's Foundry in response to Farewell. You would think I would have gotten to cast Siphon Insight more, given that I put 4 of them in my deck. Whiff. They didn't whiff. All right, got them right where I want them. Perhaps not. Yeah, I definitely don't want Negates in my deck, or Disdainful Stroke. Siphon Insight's also pretty underwhelming. Do I want Syncopate, Ertai Resurrected, or Farewell? I think I'm going to trim a Farewell and Ertai Resurrected. I still haven't managed to draw Parasitic Grasp, but I did draw Pilfer. I think that, oh, I drew Parasitic Grasp. I was going to say, I think that this hand I'm actually probably a favorite to win. Assuming I hit a 4th land so I can just play Sheoldred. Well, maybe I'm not going to hit the 4th land and be able to play Sheoldred. Maybe I'm just going to be hanging out. A handful of 4 and 5 drops and no way to play them. Is this thing a soldier? It's a wizard. It's not a soldier. I don't know what's going on with this thing. I don't know why they had that in their deck. Doesn't seem very powerful. I take everything I just said back. That was kind of cool. Look how big this Malevolent Hermit is. Also, why didn't they just... Oh, they can't just make it a Skystrike officer. just be dead here. This is crew 1. It's not looking good for me. Goes dead to an untapped land, maybe? Because they could have just crewed a soldier if they if they had an untapped land. No, it doesn't matter. My plan to win. I couldn't even win this game. Well, this was not a very victorious video, but I'm going to publish it anyway, just to show the despair of trying to play with Esper control, even with Invoke Despair. Moral of the story, play with Fable the Mirror Breaker. That's what Standard is. It's play with Fable the Mirror Breaker. See you next time.